Well, I got one more question before Trav jumps in here with some more goalie-centric questions. But you had said towards the tail end of your career when you were kind of up with the Islanders in Bridgeport that you were, and some people maybe took it the wrong way, saying you're kind of done with the American League. You had started with the Manitoba Moose. You had worked your way up. You had a great career playing in the league. And then when the Bridgeport thing, was that more of a career decision as far as the travel, or was that more of a family decision?
A little bit of both. I think as an athlete, you get to a point where you sort of say, like, I've done everything I can here. I've, what else do I have to prove? What else am I going to prove to myself? I think coming off of getting bought out by New Jersey, and then I went the whole COVID year as a taxi squad goalie on the island, and I didn't play. I didn't get a single game that year. I think they were the only team in the league that only used two goalies the entire season because everyone got COVID. Um, but I felt better and better as that year went along in practice. I felt like I could play at that level. I felt like I could play in the NHL. So I said, you know what? I want to give it a shot because I didn't want to go out that way, not having played in, 18 months and being like, what if I could? I was 34, 35. So it's like, you never know. And I just didn't want to not know. So I came back the next year on a two-way and played a lot in the American League and played well. And the American League's still a good league. It's a tough league because it's not as structured and, predictable as the NHL, especially for a goalie. Things happen that never should happen. And you're like, whoa, that was weird. But, I felt really good about my game. I got the one game in against New Jersey and won, which was really cool. Backed up a whole bunch of games. So it was great to be at the NHL level again. And then I did one more year because I did feel I ended that year. I felt great. We played in the playoffs in the American League. I felt like I could contribute. But again, those two Russians on the island, Sorokin and Varley, like they must be hard on the Meldonium or something because they never get hurt or sick. They play every single night. So I just again, you never wish anybody to get hurt, but they were so good that I just never really had the opportunity to get a couple of games and see if I could still do it. So that second year in the American League, I got called up. I backed up 8 or 10 games, didn't get in any of them, came back down. And, I think at that point I was 37. I just spent the majority of 2 years in the American League. It's kind of like, all right, do I really need to go back out here and play another year in the American League? Like, what purpose am I serving? Like, that would just be serving my own ego and my own need to play. I've done everything I can here. I just felt at that point, I tried. I wanted to play more in the NHL. I didn't see a future in the NHL at that point, especially. So I sort of said, like, it's just, yeah, I don't want to put my family through another season just to satisfy my own competitive needs at 37. Like, I've done that for 16 years. And I think that was a big part of it. So we talked about going to Switzerland. I'm a Swiss citizen, so we could have gone over there and played as a non-import, which would have been pretty cool. But my daughter's going to kindergarten. We had just kind of settled down finally in Fairfield, Connecticut here. We love the community in the area. So, and, I was, at the end of the day too, I think I was just tapped out mentally. I just sort of said, I don't know if I can summon up the energy to go play 30 games in Switzerland next year, riding buses in a foreign country. And while it's been beautiful and fun, it's just as an athlete, you kind of hit that point where you're just like, all right, I'm good. I've done everything I can here. I just don't know if I can push myself that much anymore.
Is it tough to come to peace with that? Like to let go of the NHL dream of, okay, I just want to play a couple more games. I want to do this. I want to do that. And just, all right, it's over.
Get a new show, man. It's over. I think because I did those 2 years in the American League, it was easier. I knew my limitations at that point. I still felt like I was a capable goalie. Could I have played 25 or 30 games in the NHL? I don't know. Maybe I could have played some here and there, and we'll see how it went. But and also too, because I played over 400 games, it wasn't as if I got 40 games. It was like, well, what if? I had a great run and a great career in the NHL
And a winning record.
So, again, it's, I know a lot of people who sort of look at the injuries and the downfall and what could have been. But if you had told me back in high school or in Manitoba that I would have played 400 games and, played for Vancouver and New Jersey and done all these things I did, I would have taken that in a heartbeat. So I try to look at it as positive, and I had a great experience with it. And again, to your point, I think those years in the American League were sort of, again, cathartic for me to just be like, okay, I tried. I did everything I could. There wasn't much else I could have done, so I'm at peace with it. Again, if I left something on the table or been like, maybe I could have done this, then it would have been a little bit harder. But I think, again, it really let me exhaust that scratch that itch of can I still do it and do I want to still do it? And I think that allowed me to, and my family allowed me to do it too, because the American League is, it's better in some ways, but it's worse in others. My kids, when we go to games now, they're like, when are we going to the family room between periods? It's like, oh, buddy, dad doesn't play anymore on that team. We can't just show up in the family room. So, but we had a great experience with it. So again, like I said, I'm completely at peace with it.
Which guys come to mind, like playing day in, day out for how many years? You see some of the best in the world. I mean, you're already a top 60 goalie as is, but are there any guys that come to mind where you're just overwhelmingly impressed by them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Roberto to me was kind of like, I think he changed my career in a good way without him even knowing it. I think I came in from Manitoba and I had some great mentors down there, Drew McIntyre, um, some of the other guys I worked with and played with, Scott Arneal, our coach, Mike Keane, Keener, like he taught me so much in the American League about how to be a pro and how to be an adult and just sort of, hey, suck it up and just, you're a pro now. You got to do certain things. So those guys really helped me in the minors. But then when I got to Vancouver, it's a different level. It's a different level of scrutiny, a different level of play. And I think for me, thinking I was ready, and I felt I was, and I get on the ice with him, and he's out there before me. He's doing drills. He's working on this. He's competing on every single puck. He's swearing up and down the ice if he gets scored on. Like he's a competitive son of a bitch. And I was like, oh, that's what like great goalies look like at this level. So I think even just to observe him and watch him and practice with him for that first half of that season, it ramped my game up. I was like, okay, this is the level I need to get to if I'm going to compete with this guy, because one of my biggest fears was like, and I felt this when I'd been called up in the years prior, that there was Roberto and I didn't want to be the guy that came in. They're like, oh, you're not Roberto. Like, we don't feel secure and safe with you back there because we have one of the greatest goalies of all time in net. So I like, honestly, that fear motivated me to try to be as good as I could as him to make sure there wasn't like some significant drop off between him and me when I did play. And I think the work ethic, the mentality, the competitiveness, not even the talent, let alone that, it was just that helped me sort of get to that next level. And yeah, I mean, he's the one that probably stands out the most. I've had some other great, I mean, recently, even in the island, working with Ilya Sorokin and Varley. Varley was one of my peers, Semyon Varlamov. We were compared a lot. I actually based the contract negotiator I was talking about. He was the comparable we were looking at because he had just re-signed with Colorado. So it was fun working with those two because Ilya is just, a maniac. He works so hard and he cares so much. And Varley's just, he's been around forever and he's just so technical. You see him in the playoffs now. He's still doing it at 35, 36. Just a really fun guy, but again, works his butt off at age 35, 36 to be in the shape he is. Jersey was a little different. I had Marty for a year, so that was a bit of a unique experience. It was awesome playing with Marty, just again, to be around him and watch him. I probably didn't learn quite as much from him just because he had such a unique style and he was 42, so he's just at a different point of his career. And then, we had, once I became a starting goalie, we ran through a lot of backups. All great guys, Keith Kincaid, Scott Clemenson, Jan Denis, just guys like that, Mackenzie Blackwood. So I always had great relationships, but it kind of flipped at that point, right? I sort of became the mentor to the mentee versus the other way around. So again, as I mentioned, you're the hunted, so you're trying to keep your job and prove that you belong, but you're also trying to teach these guys and help them come along in their careers while still making sure that you're doing what you need to do. So, again, I was pretty lucky to have good goaltending partners in my career.
I've always found, like, no matter what goalie partner you have, you end up absorbing some of the tendencies that they have just from seeing it day in, day out. I mean, you see them on the ice how many times over how many seasons, how many years. Was there anything specific that you absorbed from like a Varley or from a Sorokin or from a Lou?
Yeah, I mean, Roberto, I morning skated every day because he did. He always morning skated. Even though he played 60, 65 games, he always went on the ice in the morning. And so I felt like if I didn't morning skate, I wasn't going to play well. Like I had to see shots in the morning. And then finally, when I got to Jersey years later and was the guy, there was one year I played 69 games. Finally, Chris Terreri, my goalie coach, had to be like, hey, man, you don't have to skate. We played yesterday. Like, you really don't have to skate. I'm like, no, I do. Like, I have to skate. And he's like, trust me, don't go on the ice because, it takes you an hour to warm up, stretch, get ready, put your gear on. You go on the ice for 12 minutes and you get off. Like, save yourself the energy of doing all that and whatever. And finally, I did it. And I was like, oh, I played all right. And I was like, oh, I guess I don't have to skate every day, every morning. So it took a little while from Roberto to like, get out of my mind that I had to do that. Mostly just like a little equipment things too. There's some warm up drills, some skating drills I picked up from guys along the way, but like I wore these elbow kind of soft, squishy elbow heel pads that I stole from Roberto because I saw him doing it. And I was like, oh, I'm going to try that.
You're welcome for enjoying this clip. And you're welcome to click on more of them right here. There's lots of content available, new podcast every Sunday. Sign up for the Patreon page as well because that gets you what? Perks. That's it.